Hello and welcome to Off the Fence Live. Day one of the Cheltenham Festival done and dusted, and what a day it was. So many memorable moments to look back on, but we're all about looking forward on this show. So we're going to do our best bits from day one and then kick on with our tips and fancies for day two, because ultimately that's what you're here for. Let's check in with the usual team. We're going to go straight over to you, Tony Keenan. How are you? How did you enjoy day one from the comfort of your own home?
Yeah, really good day one, proper day's racing. Punting wise, a bit of a wash. Got the champion hurdle right in the without markets, I suppose. Not an awful lot else. I suppose a very pleasant surprise to see Barry here. I didn't know whether he was going to make it there. Looking at him, watching the first. Although that said, he looked very cool, calm, and collected. Looked like a fella that knew the horse was going to win about a fortnight ago. So congratulations, Barry. Fair play to you, and especially so for pitching in again here. I'm sure there's plenty of celebrations planned this evening.
Yeah, okay, let's kick straight on then with you, Barry, and Constitution Hill. It's pointless asking you what your best part of the day was because it was race one. Talk us through it. How did it go?
It was brilliant, yeah. So they went a strong gallop, the pace steady, they went on again down the back. Dynamo brought them at a brilliant pace, which as a spectator was suiting because it was going to sort the wheat from the chaff. He hit a little flat spot top of the hill, but then came on the bridle and Dynamo fell. And yeah, he was Nico luckily and thankfully had switched in, which obviously took him out of that scenario of maybe dealing with Dynamo on the floor. But how he picked up on the straight and to pull away and break any power track record, that was kind of a little bit impressive. So yeah, it was really exciting. It was a great day. All our kids were there as well, and it was just magic, yeah. And
from the sort of finish of the Supreme celebrations in the paddock till now, how many glasses of champagne?
Oh, just one or two. That was all. To behave myself, But thanks, Tony. Thanks for
Yeah, I'm not sure I believe that.
Acknowledging my arrival here.
Yeah, but well done for getting here. In fairness, good effort from you, Tony. What was your best part of the day? Obviously, you're a team player, so it was all about Constitution Hill and Barry Geraghty. But away from that, any other big highlights? Pretty obvious one, I suppose, in the middle of the day.
Yeah, pretty obvious. Just to mention Constitution Hill, like it had everything. It had the time, it had the visuals. He handled the ground brilliantly. I see time form. I've given him a rating of 177 off the back of a horse's third start. Like just ridiculous stuff altogether. It's absolutely brilliant. Sets up things nicely. I see the owner mentioned Punchestown might be on the cards with Clash with Honeysuckle, which would be something really to savour. Lots of other small little takeaways. UK horses seem to be a little bit better than advertised. We'll see what we're saying about that this time tomorrow, but certainly an excellent start for them. The Boodles and the National Hunt Chase, my number one takeaway from those is, do we really need those races? Like, how much better would it have been if Statler had been in the Brown Advisory tomorrow and Gaelic Warrior being the Triumph and stuff like that? The relatively weak races for what they are. Another takeaway, look, Zanna here looks to me like a horse that's been running over the wrong trip all season. His jumping isn't quick enough for 2 miles. He's keeping on well at the dead again. I'd say there's more to come for him when he steps up to 2.5, eventually maybe 3 miles. And final thing, I suppose, just we were all the time trying to predict pace and things like that. Just the Mayor's Hurdle, a very good example to see jockeys do adapt, jockeys do change. Like Stormy Ireland kind of sat in basically after the early stages. Just something to bear in mind when you're trying to guess for what way races will be run. They don't always unfold just based on what the horses have done previously.
Okay, a few takeaways from you, Tony. Let's kick on and go through our selections for day two. Obviously kicking off with the Ballymore. Sir Gerhard at the top of the market, 3-Stripe Life next, best in. Tony, let's stick with you. Where are you settling on this race?
Yeah, keep this very brief. Kind of been on the Sir Gerhard train for this race since the Dublin Racing Festival. It was also with What Do You Want earlier in the season. I'm glad to see the two of them are getting here. And hopefully one of those can come home in front.
Okay, and Barry, if you were 8 out of 10 confident about Constitution Hill, how confident are you about Sir Gerhard?
Would you be brave enough to say 10?
Ooh.
I would be, yeah, in that category. This is a weaker race, and he is a horse of that level. He is top notch. He beat 3 Stripes Life last time comfortably, and I think he's his main contender. I think 3 Stripes Life is better stepping up on trip, but I don't see any issue with Sir Gerhard at the trip, so he's going to be very hard to beat. But I would see 3 Stripes Life being the one to chase him home. Journey With Me, Stage Star, smart horses, but I think they're just a step off those two.
Okay, let's stick with you, Barry, and roll on to the Brown Advisory. Very simple in the first race with us all voting for Sir Gerhard, but in the second race, I think we'll all be with different selections here. I've ended up on La Home Presse. Seems about the UK horse at the top of the market with Brave Man's Game, 11-4, and a Hoy Senior in there as well. Who do you think can take this scalp, and is it going to the UK?
I think it is, yeah. Braveman's game, he's been very smart, but his performance last year behind
Bob
Ollinger in Cheltenham last year.
That's the champagne.
Behind the High Senior as well. You know, he has a ceiling, as we've discussed before. He jumps really well, but there's more than jumping involved here. Le Homme Press has been really impressive, really progressive. A High Senior disappointed at Christmas, but has put in a couple of good performances. So I would be against Braveman's game, and like you, I'd just slightly siding with Le Homme Press.
Okay, 2 votes for Venetia Williams' runner in that. Tony, who are you siding with?
I think Le Homme Press is the most interesting horse in that he wasn't an intended runner here for a long time. You can see what they're doing, trying to fight the big two in towards this race, but it's unusual. A horse that is sort of done most of his racing over shorter trips, pitching up here in the 3 miles, and I'd be happy enough maybe taking him on just, on principle that's a big ask. My way of looking at this was that I think you've got the second division of Irish novice chasers in this, but I think they're priced a little bit like the third division. And I'm going to take a chance on a couple of them here. The main one would be Beacon Edge. Look, he was fourth in the Steers Hurdle last year, ran well for a long way, chased the winner into the straight, possibly just didn't see it out, and that would be a little bit of a concern. But I thought he'd just been a much improved performance last time in the 10 up at Navan, coming off a break was effectively his first run since the Drinmore. I think he had everything wrong on that occasion. The ground was probably against him. He had a grade 1 penalty against Farouk Deline and the absence. So Farouk Deline, him are reopposing today. I'd be hopeful Beacon Edge can get the ground back on him. But I think the most important thing about him at Navan was that he jumped much better than he had done in the first time cheek pieces. He was very safe. And that's hopefully going to be reflected again tomorrow. And the other one I would give a chance, that a little bit concerned with the preparation, but Capodanno put up an amazing performance first time out this season in Naas, where he made a terrible mistake at the second last, somehow found a leg, was given time to recover and somehow picked up the win going away in the end, beating Gaillard de Mani. Excellent run then behind Bob Ollinger, Punchestown. Kind of fell early enough in the Dublin Racing Festival contest behind Galloping's jumps. But the key thing with him is he's getting 3 miles for the first time over fences. That looks like it'll suit, and I'd be happy enough taking those two against the field. I think, what are you talking about, the kind of 14-1 and maybe 8-1.
Yeah, a bit of value there for sure, and a bit of an unsteady favourite with Braveman's game as well at the top of the market. There's for sure value to be found. Let's move on to the Coral Cup, Tony, and this is a race that is just, I can't settle on anything. I don't know where I'm going at this point, and please can you sort out the puzzle that is the Coral Cup?
Yeah, have you any general knowledge questions? No. Very, very difficult to kind of sort this one out. Look, typically it's going to be a very strongly run race. I know Barry rode the winner, but 1 year with Damn the Company and they went steadily, but typically this is going to be well run, looking at the pace setup. I was taking kind of 2 against the field here. The first one is Call Me Lord, Nicky Henderson's horse. The handicapping of the English horses has been much commented on this season. And he's one of these older horses that has dropped in the weights. He was rated 158 at his peak. He's now down to 142. I don't know how his abilities diminished that much. He was fifth in the entry grade 1 3-mile hurdle last spring. Probably didn't get home. And then at Sandown, the final day of the jump season, he nearly would have won if he had jumped the last with a bad mistake. And that would give a bit of hope for him handling better ground. He went back this season, a couple of runs over fences, probably isn't really his thing. Then a really good run in the Lanzarote hurdle, third best of those held up in a race where I think the front 2 were up there the whole way. And then he went to guts of 3 miles last time, and I don't think he really stays that. So I'd be interested in him there. He's kind of a big price, extra places, stuff like that. And of maybe one's a little bit shorter. This horse is an awful lot shorter. I think Ashfield Bob for the Irish operation, Jessica Harrington, is interesting. Kind of a classy horse in this race. Jessica Harden's kind of quite a quiet winter, but back among the winners recently. I think she can be quite a streaky trainer. When she does hit form, she really hits form. And this lad might yet have a bit more to give over hurdles. He got probably a soft enough lead at Navan the last time, but that was maybe counteracted by the fact he went down the inner, which usually is the worst of the ground. And he does seem to handle better ground judging his win at Fairyhouse last Easter. So yeah, I take the 2 of those against the field. But look, there's loads you can give chances to, loads of horses aimed at it. You need an awful lot of luck and running. But I think there's a little bit of juice in both of their prices. Okay,
couple to take a swing out there from Tony. Barry mentioned Dame de Compagnie there. I think she was the shortest price winner of this race for a very long time. So you really delivered the goods that day.
Yeah, she overcame a penalty. There was a penalty dispute, but yeah, she was a good winner. It's a very competitive race, as Tony says. There's plenty you can make case for. Goal Road, the Shunter, Unexpected Party. But for me, I'm going with the favourite. I'm going with St. Felician. He's a good winner in Gore, and he would be in a novice race had he been qualified for a novice, but wasn't. And he was second to Durasso last time, with Whiskey Sour and third, who won well since. So to me, he looks the most progressive horse in the race. Plenty of exposed horses. It's competitive. But to me, he was the standout.
Okay, a standout option, win bet there from Barry, and a couple of each way horses to take a swing out from Tony. Let's move on to the big race, the Champion Chase on day 2. Cannot wait for this. It looks like all the big names are going to line up. Obviously, Shishkin taking on Energumene again, a Chacun Pour Soi in there as well. Barry, you've won this race plenty in the past. This is one of the strongest renewals in a while, isn't it?
It is, definitely. And it goes back to the Ascot form. And Shishkin, he dealt with Energumene reasonably well in the finish. At the line, he was a good winner. Energumene needed the line. He was well beaten. Going left-handed is going to suit Shishkin, so he's going to benefit from that. He has great course form. Obviously, he's won at 2 festivals in the past. He's going to be hard to beat. Chacun Pour Soi, I would see as the possible dark one, as being a bigger threat than Energumene. But being honest, I think Shishkin has drifted out to nearly even money, and I think at that kind of price, he's worth getting with him.
Much confidence from the Henderson team around him. How much of confidence are they bringing into this?
Yeah, well, their stable form, which was being questioned before, I think that's been put to bed.
Dealt with.
So no, everyone seems happy. He has 2 big ones for the week with the Supreme, a combination of Constitution Hill and Janbon and Shishkin. So plenty of confidence there, and I'd imagine he will be hard to beat. And he's drifted to a backable price.
Do you agree with that, Tony? Do you think he's drifted to a backable price now, Shishkin?
Yeah, he's a bit more backable now at even money. There was kind of 8 to 11, 4 to 6 directly after the Ascot race. I feel like we've talked about this race over and over again on the show. Still be coming back to Energumene. Should be possibly a little bit closer to the favourite in the betting. Wouldn't be a massively strong opinion. I was going through it again last night, trying to make a bit of a case for something coming to pick up the pieces, maybe a new Benegra, but really and truly he needs the main 2 plus Chacun Pour Soi to all underperform and to win. The pace setup might be okay, and you might want to mess around with him in the place markets a little bit. I would be expecting a much better performance from him than he showed up in the Tingle Creek. Now that he's fresh again, and he is quite effective at the track. But no, it does look to be the main 3, and I've just sided with Energumene just at the prices.
And sticking with you, Tony, and moving on to the cross-country chase, I'm not entirely sure you're the sort of man to have a strong view in this, to be honest.
No, I just don't bother with these races. There's only really 3 or 4 of them in the calendar in Ireland, and I have to leave that to people who are better qualified. Look, you'd like to see Tiger Roll do it, but and he probably will now. The ground is drying out for him.
Okay, well, just a quick 30 seconds on Tiger Roll. You said on the show, and we spoke about it on the Cheltenham Festival preview, Barry, that if the rain came, then it was about Delta Work, and if it dries out, it's about Tiger Roll. And then there is a bit of rain forecast, but not enough to dampen his chances.
I wouldn't think so. No, I'd say that it'll only dampen a little bit, but no. Yeah. I think he's going to be, he'll be hard to beat. He's been trained for this, comes well in the spring, sun on his back. I think everyone's teed up for him, and yeah, he sprinted clear of the field last year. He was so impressive. Age doesn't affect a horse so much over a trip. If it was a 2-mile race, you'd worry about age, but a 12-year-old over 3.5 mile, they only stay all better. So no, I'd be fairly confident with him.
All aboard the Tiger Roll train. The roof really, there was a great reception for Honeysuckle. There'll be another great reception as Tiger Roll goes in tomorrow. I cannot wait for that. Let's move on to the Grand Annual. Another very competitive handicap, Tony. The Irish horse at the moment is at the top of the betting, but there's plenty in there for the UK. And who have you sided with?
Again, wouldn't be a massively strong opinion. I thought that the 2 most interesting horses were the 2 at the top of the weights. Classy horses, Sky Pirate and Andy Dufresne. I just make a point, just with punters and things maybe people can be doing. I think a good idea just at Cheltenham is to be working maybe a couple of days ahead. Maybe today you kind of nearly want to be looking at Thursday, because the prices move very, very quickly. Like Andy Dufresne is basically half the price since declarations. You do need to be moving kind of quick the day before, and sometimes even coming back to something at 6:30, 7 o'clock the night before. Some of the prices are absolutely smashed. Just something maybe people will be aware about for Thursday and Friday. I do think he's a very classy horse in this. He hasn't lived up to really what they thought of him as a young horse. I think there was times he was favoured for the Ballymore and other races like that. But I think you'll find it easier giving weight to the likes of Buddy Rich and Il Rodotto and Time White than he was giving weight to something like Captain Guinness the last time. In his recent runs, I think, over fences, he looked like more of a two-miler, jumps very quickly, didn't get home in the Ryanair Gold Cup at Fairyhouse last year, and obviously James the race with a few quid this for him. Sky Pirates, one that just hasn't had his conditions, obviously won this last year. He's been running small field races throughout the winter. Horse that wants a lot of cover, wants not just one front runner, but probably 3 or 4 front runners to be running at, and you can see him kind of getting involved in the shake-up as well.
Okay, a few mentioned there from Tony. Like I said, wide open. Where have you landed with this?
Yeah, it is wide open. I would agree with Tony on Andy Dufresne and Sky Pirate being of interest. But Il Rodotto, I liked him in Newbury when he won back at the Ladbrokes meeting. He ran back a week later in the Henry VIII, which was too soon. And he's had 1 run since then in Lingfield. I just like him as an individual. I think the drying ground is going to suit him. He's only 5-year-old. I think there's potential that he's just not that exposed. So he could be a dark one at a price. But I wouldn't have any great confidence, but just one that I think might have a little squeak.
Yeah, very competitive handicaps on day 2 for us to get stuck into, but a good few mentioned there, and hopefully you can have a bit of fun with them. Let's move on to the champion bumper. Facile Vega, obviously still at the top of the betting, has been since that emphatic Leopardstown win. Next best American Mike taking him on Redemption Day in there as well. Tony, ground concerns we've been discussing for Facile Vega on this show for a couple of weeks now. I presume with the drying ground today, that's still a concern for you for the favourite here.
Yeah, I think so. I was saying to Barry there yesterday, I saw a picture of him out on the gallops there at Cheltenham the day before. He even seems to have any action out walking around the place. So we'll see how he copes with the ground tomorrow. It'll probably be pretty quick. Look, I think American Mike has come closer to him in the betting since we were last speaking about that. That's understandable. He's more proven on the ground. I'm going to go for one here at a bigger price, maybe in the place markets and without the 2 favourite markets, and that's Paul Nolan's horse, Joyu Machine. He was second to Facile Vega on debut at Leopardstown. I thought he was quite green that day. In fact, I had a little bit of question about his temperament after that, but having seen him at Navan, it definitely looked like it was just greenness. So in that strongly run race to produce a really good time, he was well able for that race. And then he went to Navan in a big field where he got into loads of bother, couldn't get a run from the 3 furlong pole to the 1 furlong pole. They were racing right out nearly on the chase track. But as soon as Barry O'Neill got him a little bit of space, he quickened up very well and won kind of going away. That was on better ground than was at Leopardstown, so showed a bit of versatility. I think this has turned up quite a big field, much bigger than expected, 22 runners. They haven't scared them off. The big 2, maybe like Sir Gerhard and Kilcrit did last year. So I thought Joyo Machan, yeah, he's kind of double figure price without Facile Vega, and there's barely double figures, I think, without the 2. So I'd be quite happy taking a chance on him. And the other one of the Willie Mullins team that I would throw into the mix, he doesn't really have a time, or the form isn't anything wonderful. I thought visually this horse looked good when he won at Punchestown. That's James's Gate. Just really strong at the line. Obviously with the sponsor having a race, the owner, sponsoring a race elsewhere on the card, you'd like to think this would be a little bit of a plan. And yeah, it has been a thing in the past that sometimes when there's a really short Willie Mullins one and he has 3 or 4 other ones in it, there can be a surprise. If there was a surprise this time, I think it might be that one.
Okay, like it a lot. How are you playing the bumper? Are you same concerns as Tony about Facile Vega?
I would have similar concerns to Tony, and likewise as regards to be looking elsewhere in Willie's. I think Redemption Day is a horse going to be suited by the drying ground. Seems to have a nice bit of pace. I thought Patrick looked after him well in Leopardstown. He won, but he just showed good pace, good action. I think he's going to be suited by the better ground. But of the top 2, I would take American Mike. He was impressive. I think he's got a good relaxed temperament as well, which is going to suit the whole occasion. But Redemption Day could be value maybe.
Okay, both the boys taking on Facile Vega in the lucky last. We have rattled through day 2. Tony, just finally, last question to you is the simple, what's your best bet of the day?
I think at the current price, I go Beacon Edge in the Brown Advisory.
Okay, and I will take you on with Lahon Presse in the same race. What about you?
I'd double Sir Gerhard and Shishkin.
Oh, nice. All about the shorties at Barry. We'll forgive him considering he's had such a brilliant day here at Cheltenham, as have I. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. That was Off the Fence. Join us again tomorrow at the same time after day 2.